Hello. I've been busy collecting some more uncommon Warzone tips as I've been playing, always making notes, trying to find weird little details you don't already know, and towards the end, I'll be going through any updates I've made to my custom loadouts, because that's a pretty common question. If anything is different now, or if I have any more tips to give after those original couple videos, had to dig deep to find things that might be interesting, but here goes. Starting with a little mobility and killstreak tip. One advantage to carrying an airstrike or cluster is that you can swap to it to move faster. It's like switching to your knife as a third weapon. It seems to bring your movement speed up to 100%, like the Uzi and MP7, only barely beat by the pistol and knife. But that beats out other SMGs, other rifles, and it's much faster than LMGs, snipers, and launchers. And since a lot of people's setups involve overkill or a launcher, this can be a very handy speed boost when you need to escape the gas or reposition somewhere as quickly as possible. And as a last-ditch effort, if you're getting lit up too much, you can always call in the streak. UAVs are still great and all, but with more and more people running Ghost every day, it's not uncommon to call in a UAV in a late game circle and see nothing at all. So these days, we typically buy UAVs throughout the match for help with positioning and finding people in mid-game circles, but maybe only carry one into the late game. Unless it's a limited time mode without loadouts, then UAVs are amazing again, with no ghosty boys. But airstrikes have a ton of utility too when used properly. If you just call it in on people you see, good chance they can run away in time or get inside. The warning is hard to miss, but after downing an enemy is often a great time, either because their team might be coming to revive him, or just to prevent their self-revive if they're behind cover. Another great use is to force people out of cover. This is where the cluster strike really shines. It's the least expensive to buy, and it lasts for twice as long as the airstrike's couple of passes. If people are camping it up behind a rock or have an advantageous position, there's nothing like an incoming cluster warning that'll make them give up that spot and prevent them from going back for about 10 seconds. And a teammate could just call another one, which can give you a great opportunity to take them out. Another temporary great thing about the cluster, there's a bug I've been getting more of recently, the airspace full bug, that goes for the entire rest of the game, for I think the whole lobby, but at least for our team, and that completely blocks UAVs and airstrikes, but it doesn't block the cluster. Mortars don't care about airspace, you can get past that annoying bug. And that also means you can call in a cluster at the same time as your friend. Pretty fun to bomb an entire area. Someone might think they're running away from the airstrike, but they're just running into another one. Honestly, that bug is the main reason I've been giving the cluster more of a chance recently, but I found them to be pretty useful for being the cheapest option. Plus that part about them being a mobility tool on top. Moving on to using the heartbeat like a pro, you might not be using it to its full potential. By now it's commonly accepted that the heartbeat is one of the best tacticals since you can use it to scan every building for campers or check in a fight to know where people are positioned. It can't be fully relied upon because of Ghost, but it's clearly incredibly valuable, especially early game. One thing I often see when people use it though is they hold it out way longer than you need to. Here are some basics on how the heartbeat works. When you pull it out, that is what initiates a ping after a short delay. It isn't like it's always active when it's in your pocket. When that ping starts is when the full scan happens, meaning the direction you're facing at that time is locked in place. The speed of the sweeping animation doesn't mean anything aside from when it reveals the enemy dot to you. So if I start the ping looking at an enemy, I can sweep around like crazy, but no, you can't scan 360 degrees. The area that I scanned will be that original semicircle area. You can clearly see that if I scan somewhere without an enemy and quickly look at somebody, it isn't going to pick him up mid-sweep. And in case you didn't know, it isn't like a limited spherical shape around you. Think of it as scanning your minimap like a UAV does. A 2D semicircle with seemingly infinite verticality. You can scan people above and below you, no problem. If you hold the heartbeat in your hand and just walk around with it, there's a fairly long delay between pings, exactly 4 whole seconds. Whereas if you do a scan and put it away, it'll reset after a shorter time, and you can reping after only a bit over 2 seconds. You can get into a good rhythm. Not a huge deal, but definitely the better way to do things, since you can keep your mobility up in between pings, and ping twice as fast. That's great for if you're running through an urban area to be scanning left and right as you go. The main mistake I see is people waiting for the full scan to complete. You don't need to hold it that long, because the readout at the bottom with the meters to the enemy always shows up the instant the scan starts, not when their dot comes up. Meaning if you don't see anything at the bottom, then you know it isn't going to detect anyone and you can put it away because the area is clear or has a ghost user. So you can scan a lot faster that way and have your gun up more and keep moving. If you momentarily saw a number at the bottom though and you want to know what direction they are, don't worry, you can quickly bring it back up and it'll still be on the same ping. Putting it away doesn't instantly clear it, so you'll see the dot of the person when you bring it back up. Quick scanning like that'll save you a lot of time in the long run, and it feels cooler too. I tried to take this to the extreme by just tapping the heartbeat button because it does actually sound like that makes it do a scan. You'll hear the nobody detected beep after a couple seconds. But sadly, that isn't an actual scan. It doesn't make the proper enemy beep sound even when there is someone in front of you. Just in case you start trying that and think it might work. Separate fun fact you might have noticed in that testing, the Warzone heartbeat range is indeed 20 meters longer than it is in multiplayer. Makes it a lot more useful, that's for sure. On the note of the heartbeat, figured I'd throw in, don't be fooled by the phantom people you can find in certain places on the map. The first time I was in this area, that certainly spooked me. Then I thought maybe someone was parachuting above, but no, these are actually people fighting in the gulag. There are 3 different gulag arenas with slightly different layouts, labeled 1, 2, and 3, and they do take place deep under the map. I believe in these 3 spots, unless they move around. But if you check your map while in the gulag, you can sometimes see the white line leading from your position to the circle if you're out of the zone. Anyway, just know you might see some random heartbeat pings in those locations. Don't be alarmed. And on the note of silly phantom things, it can be helpful to see enemy shield turrets and especially recon drones on the map, since it tells you a team is there, but when you see a shield turret on this hill facing right, experienced players will know that is not a real thing. If you go there, it is inside the hill. I think some people originally thought this was bunker Easter egg related, but there are no bunkers anywhere near here. It's just a very strange bug. Sometimes, if you ping it on the map, the ping can eventually turn into a precision airstrike icon, or just go blank when it despawns. And it can show up multiple times in a match, just a weird quirk of the game. Next, I want to cover some reviving stuff. The first part, I think, is becoming more common knowledge. Would have been a cool tip back when we found out about it, but it is incredibly useful, gotta mention it. The fact that you can start reviving yourself with self-revive, and then have a teammate take it over, so that you save time and keep your self-revive. Basically, revive progress is shared between self-revive and all other players. It just slowly falls back down when you aren't being revived. So you can keep tapping your self-revive to keep yourself nearly done. Very useful for obvious reasons. You can save that 4,500 and a trip to the buy station, which is often not possible late game. So you can keep that self-revive for a time you really need it when a teammate can't get to you or can't take their attention off the fight. If they can, for even a moment, you may as well edge yourself to near completion and ask your bro to finish you off. That's what bros are for. Now, another detail, you might not have known about this. Normally, when you're reviving someone, it locks you both in place. You can't move. However, if they started their self-revive and you take it over, they can actually crawl away while being revived, which is situationally useful. It can be great if you're trying to escape the gas or get to a better spot with more cover. It's a nice thing to know about. And don't worry about getting too far away. I don't think any amount of distance can break the revive, unless this is something they patch out at some point. But one time I was downed while standing on an ATV, but I stayed on it, and a teammate started reviving me as they fell off, and they were able to finish the revive from some 100 meters away. Sadly, it seems like you can't do much else while reviving. You actually used to be able to plate up while reviving, which was a neat trick, but rest in peace that cool tip. At least it seems like they did away with the syringe animation. Now you keep your gun up while reviving, which makes it a lot easier to watch angles and prepare to be pushed. The only other thing I found you could do mid-revive is access your inventory and drop things while reviving, which I don't see being very helpful unless you want to drop your downed friend some plates in the most efficient way possible. Next up, you may have noticed you can't see through glass with thermal, meaning if you aren't using thermal, you may as well not break glass to be able to hide behind it from anyone who does have thermal. Now that's really not interesting on its own. I just wanted to share a fun fact about thermals and glass, because everyone I've seen mention this has called it a bug, but I'd call it good attention to detail. That's one area they've been pretty awesome at in this game. Maybe not the detail of having a working XP system. How is my total less than my contract bonus? What? And why do I have 0 XP when we won this game? But you know, the little details in the realism department have been cool. Like, I'm no science man, but I think this is how thermals and glass actually interact. Infrared doesn't pass through glass like visible light does. To a thermoscope, glass is like any other cold wall and will completely block anything behind it. So I think the only bug is that you can see smoke effects through glass with the thermal. That doesn't seem quite right. But it's cool that thermals are actually working differently as opposed to being a lazy filter effect. And now you know, next time you see someone call this a bug, you can hit them with an, actually, that's how thermals work. Now I've got 3 tiny advanced awareness tips I'll roll into one. First, if you pay attention to the ground, you can sometimes spot an enemy capture contract point before they get there. It won't be marked by anything before they start capping and launch the flare, but if you see the active laptop and the crate antenna type thing on the ground, you could consider waiting around and ambushing whoever comes to capture it. Second, if you ever see an enemy loadout crate deflate or disappear, assuming someone didn't just use it, that means their team was wiped and completely knocked out. So if you wipe a team and then later see the crate go away, that means they lost in the gulag and won't be coming back. It's just nice to keep in mind if the loadout is still there, you should be somewhat on guard because someone could be coming back, maybe flying in from the gulag and wanting their loadout. When it's gone, you're good. Or when the crate deflates, no need to wait, because they've been obliterated. Yeah. Third, it can help to pay attention to what skins people are using. Maybe even work it into your callouts and pings, like Ghost on that corner, Kruger running around back, Kruger dead, instead of calling everyone Guy. Obviously people can run duplicate skins, but it can be helpful to keep track of who's dead and who's still up. If you saw a ghost running around and wiped a team with no ghost, you know there's still a guy somewhere. Or with this guy who parachuted in from the gulag, I thought he might have been the guy we just killed on this roof a bit ago who came back for his stuff, but they had different skins, so never mind. Just a neat little detail that can help with general awareness of what's going on around you. But I called these tiny details for a reason. If you're still focusing on mastering the basics, then obviously don't bother trying to pay attention to skins. Here's one tip I wanted to bring up again that I had in the previous tip video, the locations of ammo crates around the map. Every police station and gun store on the map has one that everyone on your team can interact with to get a couple mags of whatever 2 guns they have on them. And I wanted to add an additional ammo crate that I've been getting plenty of use out of in the bottom floor of this traffic control type building in the military base. I walk by that crate all the time to help out in early game fights. So I'll add that to the map, and maybe there are a few others in areas I don't visit as frequently. I do feel like I remember seeing some that weren't in gun stores or police stations. But anyway, I figured this map was worth a re-mention. It is a fairly niche piece of map knowledge that can really help out. I've been making much more use of these than I thought I would. Generally, ammo isn't a huge problem, but for launchers, to get a couple extra rockets, it can be great. Or if you maybe just deployed and got your loadout, getting a couple starting mags is amazing. Plus, a teammate with full ammo could drop theirs before picking up more from the crate to help gear someone up. Moving on to a little bit of team synergy stuff. Not going to be very relevant if you play solo, but if you're really looking into optimizing your teamwork, you can start thinking about things like what weapons your team has so you can share ammo. For example, a couple of us run the AUG, and a couple run a rifle like the M4 or Grau, so we can always help keep each other full on AR and SMG ammo. Most of us will run overkill snipers. One person might have a shotgun for buildings, maybe not. They're very situational. I know the Magnum Akimbo snake shot is gaining popularity right now, but one person will always run a launcher. I'll go more into launchers in a moment. I'd say they're very important, but the ammo isn't always easy to come by, so it's great when everyone can funnel the rockets they find into one designated person, and then that person can supply the other people with extra sniper ammo. It all works so perfectly. There's also room for some tactical slot synergy. As good as the heartbeat is, and if you're solo, I'd say 100% use it, but in a team, we really don't all need one. Only 1 or 2 that are leading the way and are good at checking it frequently. And that frees up our 3rd or 4th person to maybe go back to having a stun or a flash, which can come in clutch in a gunfight, or a smoke for cover in exposed areas for revives, or for pairing with thermal, even a decoy for the fun of it, the momentary confusion. And finally, there's spreading out your cash. First, there's the obvious kind of sharing that any decent team would do, pooling money to buy a loadout, then helping each other all buy self-revives and streaks. But after that, it's still a good practice to spread out your money. Mainly in case one person dies, everyone should aim to have that 4,500 ready to revive them, or have the cash to buy armor in a pinch, or any other stuff they might need. If one guy is hoarding all the cash and he goes down, that kinda sucks. It also sucks for him, if anything, because if he had shared, his team would be more able to buy him back. So you really shouldn't be hoarding cash in Warzone. Either spend it or spread it out. Well, it's finally time to touch on a couple custom loadout updates. Most of the logic has stayed the same, but the first thing I want to touch on is a change I made very shortly after those tip videos, running C4 as the lethal. You've no doubt already seen me using C4 in gameplay in other videos, or earlier in this one. I think C4 is the clear option. Sure, you can't throw it as far as other stuff, but that's where the downsides end. Even though it's short range, nothing is as precise and multi-purpose as the C4. One, it's incredible for anti-vehicle. If you just land it anywhere near a little tac rover or even a low-hovering helicopter, it's gone. And you can also plop it down and burst it in time to save your life, unlike something like a Semtex. Two, it's god tier for camper busting and corner checking when you know someone's sitting in an attic or just up the stairs or in a bathroom. Introduce him to some C4. I will admit it is incredibly annoying to go up against, but it serves as one of the biggest deterrents for sitting around trying to shotgun people in close quarters. I don't personally think a shotgun is worth the weapon slot in Warzone. It really only helps indoors, and C4 completely fills that niche for me in the lethal slot. Just know it is very loud when used indoors.
He's right around the corner.
That's so loud! Oh my god. Yet another use is finishing downed players. Self-explanatory. It may not always be enough to kill in one blast, but if not, it'll do most of the job. Next, there's setting traps. That's always fun. Leave a tantalizing vehicle in the open while you wait for circles to close, and perhaps a team might drive on up. Oh, they're driving up to it right now. I'm gonna bullet soon.
Oh, they're
dead! They're dead!
Yes.
Get fucked!
Guy right there.
Oh yeah, that's gotta be the live guy. Yeah. Alright, now they're dead. Popcorn medal.
Oh my god.
On top of all of its usefulness, there's plenty of sandbox fun to be had with C4. The obvious example being the good old C4 recon drones, getting your team to stick some to it and letting them know when to detonate. Usually not enough to kill from full armor, but very funny nonetheless. And don't sleep on those recon drones. Yeah, they give you away when you call them in, but they can give you incredible intel, especially in a later circle. Just don't stay in it too long. Ghost will hide you from those UAVs and heartbeats, but nothing hides you from the drone vision. You can instantly know where everyone is. Cold-blooded only prevents being marked, which doesn't even matter because you can ping. If anything, it's a disadvantage because you won't know that you're being spotted. An upgrade like Dead Silence is cool too, and portable cover can come in clutch if you get stuck out somewhere terrible, but I usually try to hold on to a recon drone. Got distracted with a recon drone tip. Anyway, C4, very useful. You have so much control over it. I think it's the clear lethal choice. The next change I ended up making wasn't with the class building, but with what I pick in-game. Relating to the synergy I just talked about, as satisfying as sniping can be, I have mostly become the designated rocket man. I have taken on the launcher role for the team. The vehicle meta is not as insane as it was, and C4 can often be enough to save you when they get close, but I think having a launcher is still incredibly important and can make for some pretty professional combos on trucks that can take a hit.
Get fucked.
Oh, beautiful.
Multiple C4s. Airstrike, dude. That was
we stopped that like a meter short.
Dude, they were like, oh, we're about to kill these people.
And I can't tell you how many times we have absolutely shut down entire teams that were trying to abuse vehicles or just weren't fast enough to get out.
I wonder if they saw me.
They are all down. Self-revive?
Oh, finish it. Yep, finish.
Self-revive, most definitely.
Okay, we got up for a second.
Ah, just as I was cocking.
They all on self-revive. God, that must suck ass. They were loaded up.
Oh, rocket launchers.
Dude, I'm so glad that you keep that on you.
It's for sure saved us so many times.
There's another Jeep right now.
Oh, another, yep.
I got it. Wipe.
There it goes. Yeah, what was that you were saying about the launcher? I know how much it sucks to be on the other end of that, but I believe people should be reminded that vehicles are a risk, not easy, safe passage. I think teams and trucks are especially vulnerable, because even though the truck can tank a blast at high health, only the driver gets the lock-on warning. The people in the back aren't seated in the vehicle, they're just standing on a moving object. Anyway, with the number of vehicles you can run into in a game, having one guy with a launcher is too good. As far as why I have the PILA over the RPG, I saw someone ask that, well, they're basically the same thing, except one trade-off. The PILA can lock on, and the RPG can reload much faster. That's basically it. As far as I know, the rocket it fires is maybe the same. They have roughly the same swap and ADS to fire time. So lock on versus reload. Which trait do you think is more valuable? I know that spamming an RPG as a shotgun is pretty damn effective, but also an asshole move. I don't typically like to use it that way. I already have the C4 to be an asshole, and the RPG can also blow up vehicles that are zooming by you without giving any warning. That's great, but C4 can help with that too when you're talking close range. So the lock-on is just too valuable for vehicles that are a bit farther away, and especially helicopters. I love being able to disable or destroy something confidently in seconds. Sometimes I get some kills, sometimes not, but either way that vehicle is reliably gone. The Joker has some amazingly fun cheese potential to take out some camping snipers maybe, and it can get people to exit a vehicle with the scary missile incoming warning, but generally not as practical, and can't help you if you're about to be run over. And the Strela could actually be pretty cool, with it being such a fast projectile, you could absolutely nuke someone's vehicle with no warning, and fairly accurately from far away. But I still prefer the utility of the lock-on. So launchers, I think, are huge, which means unless someone wants to swap roles, I just pick my Ghost class here and I'm all set, while everyone else picks up their Overkill Sniper class and then picks up Ghost from the second free loadout that drops. Because unless something goes terribly wrong in the early game, it's typically very routine to buy a loadout and then pick up the free one later on. Also, as the launcher guy, since I've given up my long-range sniping capabilities for the most part, I can help out a little with the M4, but I mainly focus on watching our flanks and scanning with the heartbeat behind us, because you don't want to get caught off guard. The easiest way to die in a BR is to get tunnel visioned into a sniper fight that's happening 200 meters away, and you all get wiped out because you didn't hear a team coming up beside you. Those are the two main elements I wanted to focus on in regards to loadout. To take a look at the other minor changes I've tried over time, with my M4, which I still personally like over other weapons, I ditched the thermal hybrid because I have thermal on my sniper now, and with cold-blooded being so common, I really don't need it, and the slow aim down sight time was really hurting for close quarters fights. So I went to the VLK. I think it's a great ACOG with good aim down sight properties. I still have the Corvus Custom for bullet velocity, and the 60 round mag is always good. I think I had the tactical suppressor last time. Monolithic and that are basically the same. I think you're getting 7% more range for losing maybe half a frame of ADS penalty with the monolithic. You could use either, but definitely use one of them to stay off the radar. The lightweight is a 25% range reduction though, so that kinda sucks. Then the final slot I change all the time. I have a commando grip on right now since I'm not sniping. I may be using the M4 at longer range. More accuracy is always great. I could go back to the stippled grip, it's always a solid choice, or even a weapon perk like sleight of hand, frangible wounding, or disabling even. Hitting someone's legs from far away and messing with their sprint when they're trying to get to cover can be a major annoyance. You could also make a copy of your class with fully loaded on if you're picking up your class late game and need full ammo. Or if you're an AUG user, you could consider having a class with a pistol that has fully loaded, since SMG and pistol ammo is shared. My sniper is pretty much all the same, although I have been using it less these days. Presence of mind I still think is godly for a minute of held breath, and some people might be overlooking it. The perks haven't changed. Cold-blooded is the clear blue choice, overkill and then picking up Ghost for tier 2 or going straight to Ghost, and amped for tier 3 is super nice if you're sniping or shotgunning, and even better if you're going with the launcher. Although one guy on the team having spotter has come in clutch for us many times to be spotting claymores and mines. Well, I think there were more than 10 tips squeezed in there depending on where you draw the lines, but there you go. I hope something in there was interesting. I wanted to come up with some stuff that might be new even if you've been playing for a while. These are not the type of tips that are going to completely change your life and make you start winning every game though. That really still comes down to the BR basics of high ground, good positioning where fewer people are getting pushed in, and always watching your back and flanks, always moving and keeping your head on a swivel. But hopefully you learned a tiny thing or two you can incorporate into your Warzone game. Oh, I almost forgot. Here's a great tip for everyone. If you're gonna solo queue with Phil on in quads and you're gonna stand outside for some reason and die, don't leave after losing the gulag when your whole team has enough money to buy you back and is right next to a buy station. What is wrong with you? If you don't want to wait around for 5 minutes for one guy to try to get enough cash together, I get leaving. But my god, you could have waited 5 seconds. Oh well, we won that game anyway. Actually, that is the game that gave me 0 XP for no reason again, with the hilarious XP lower than contract bonus somehow. And my friends did get good XP for that game, by the way. One got a bit too much, one got a bit too little, but only I got the fat donut. Yeah, Warzone XP continues to be super messed up. If anything, I might have gotten lucky with XP and Battle Pass when I was testing it for that video. It is a mess. Oh well, that isn't a tip. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.